This is our day 2 on learning API testing. And we are going to do a quick recap about API testing. I'll share one PPT here and we'll do a slideshow from here. Okay, so what is API? API is application programming interface. Okay, so to understand this, let me show you one picture here. The things will be clear then. Okay, so if you see this, for any application, you work on presentation layer, right? When you're doing UI testing, you work with user interface, correct? So for example, if I open Chrome, okay, let's say there is a website and here, let's simply check in-hand salary. If I search in Google, let me open google.com, google.com. And if I'll say in and salary calculator India. Okay. So there is a website called cleartext.com. And here there is a particular way, like let's say if somebody is going to test this website. So what you have to do, you have to provide CTC, and then there is something it is asking, so based on that it will calculate your in-hand salary. Okay, so it will tell you that, okay, your total deduction is this, annual deduction is this, net take home salary will be 38,000, something like that. Okay, so you have to provide some detail first of all, right? So let's change some value here. So if I'll say my cost to company is, let's say this one, okay, 9 lakhs. And then bonus included in the CTC is 15%, let's say. Performance bonus will be 1,35,000. Total gross pay will be something like this. Total monthly will be like this. That will be gross. Okay. But then you want to, calculate your net take home. So it is showing me this, right? This is UI. You are checking it in user interface, correct? Somebody can do their functional check here, correct? But if I'll do F12 in my system, if I click on F12, or you can do one thing, you can simply right click and say inspect. Okay, and you'll be able to see this kind of panel where you have element, console, source, network, right? So here, if you see, whenever I'm changing something, let's say if I make it 1 million, right? And if I do a tab here, right, there is some function is called. There is something called here. Okay. So basically in the background, it calls the API, right? Their own APIs to calculate the salary, something like that, right? Or maybe if you see, you can use some other websites also. Let's say this is another website, relocate.me. Let me show you this website, what this does. This website, basically you can click on net pay calculator, right? And in different countries, it will show you that uh, what salary you will get, right? If your gross salary is this, what will be your monthly net income? Okay. So for example, in Belgium, if my annual income is, let's say, 80,000 euro, then I will get 3579 in hand, something like this, right? But if I inspect this, right, and I'll go to the network tab, right? Let me make it like this. You can adjust it, okay? And let me go like this. No, the better view is this as of now. Okay. So now if I'll change some country or I'll change this to some other number, let's say I'm going here and I'll make it 88,000, right? In the network, if you see, some kind of, functions are called, or if I'll change the country name here, okay, it is not visible as of now. Let me make it a bit smaller, then it will be visible to everyone. Okay, so okay, I'm selecting Germany now, right? So once I clicked on the Germany, if you see here, there are a lot of things are happening in the background. There are a lot of things happening in the background, and these are the function calls. These are all API calls basically, right? So the first one was, see here, Germany. So what they are doing is they are requesting this URL. They are requesting this URL, and then something is happening, right? Something is happening related to it, is calculating a lot of things. And based on that, here, some results are coming, right? So in the background, something is happening. Now, when you are doing everything on the user interface, you are checking it in presentation layer. You're opening some kind of browser, and then you are testing the functionality, right? So whenever you are doing anything on your web page, you are requesting to, you know, you are there is a call going to the business layer or the API layer. Okay. And then in the API layer, the request is gone to database layer. Database will give you some kind of result, and then it will come back to the user interface. Okay, I'll show you another example. I'll show you better example. Let's assume that there is a website called test.techlift.in. Okay, I'm opening this website and there is a login page here. Okay, and this is user interface. Okay. Now, if I'll put some user ID and password, let's say test@test.com, test@test.com, and some random password, okay, which is invalid password. If I click on the login, it is showing me invalid login, try again. So what has happened in the background? Let's understand. This is what we are seeing here is like UI, but in the background, what has happened? So I'm showing you with this picture. What you did is, in the UI level, you have put some user ID and password, correct? That is going to the server. The particular websites has their own code deployed to a server, right? So this request with the user ID and password is going to the business layer. It is going to the business layer, and then um, you know this request, it's going to check in the database whether this particular user ID, this user is present or not with the combination of password, right? So it is going to the database layer and checking whether that is present or not. And then it will give you a response that, okay, um, the user is present or not. If it is not present, it will show you some kind of error, right? So user detail is coming. And then with this layer, again, it is going to the presentation layer in a HTML format, right? So whatever you are seeing in HTML format here, right? So there is a complete check happening like this. In the UI layer, basically, you do your testing uh, manually, either manually or you do automation using Selenium, Ranorex, QTP, now it is UFT, or different kind of automation tool. But at the middle layer, you can do API testing. You can skip this part. You can skip the test doing on your UI part. You can directly call APIs. You can directly call APIs to check things are working fine or not, right? So in the middle layer, we do API testing, right? And the third layer where the data is present, you can do database testing, okay? So going back to this, right? Hope you are able to understand. If I'll do right click and if I'll say inspect, okay, let's see what is happening. Uh, I'll go to the network tab and I'll click on login again. If you see here, it is showing me that it is calling a function. It is, calling this particular URL test.techlib.in. There is a post call, right? We'll talk about what are different methods, and it is calling with some, I believe there will be some parameters. So I'll show you. So it is calling with some parameters. You'll be able to see that what is happening. So it is going with some form data with user ID and password, what we have used. And in the response, I'm getting something incorrect password, trace back, most recent call, some details are coming here, right? But basically, if you see here, there is a particular message, invalid login, try again, right? But at the back end, or, you know, if at the API layer, something different is happening, right? So UI testing a bit different and API testing is bit different, right? What we are doing is not API testing. I'm just showing you that when you do anything on your website, if I click on the login here, see here, there are a lot of things happening in the network tab. Basically, what happens is it calls different functions and then it captures CSS, JavaScript, and a lot of different things which will make this website, right? So for example, if I click on contact here, right, in the background, something is happening, right? So it is going to show you a form or something, right? Everything happens with the API, but at the presentation layer, it presents on a particular way. It's like this, okay? Going back to this, so API is simply application programming interface, and API is just set of routines, protocols, which you use to build your software application. And API specifies how one software program should interact with other software program. I'll give you another example. I'll give you again the same example we talked yesterday also, that if you have seen different kind of websites. So for example, there are different websites by which you can book the flight, correct? So one of them is, let's say, yatra.com or emirates.com or make my trip, make my trip trip.com, right? All these websites are showing you the flight details, correct? You have to put your journey date, and then you will get um, the details about different flights. Try it here, you end. I'm giving you this website, right? Yatra.com and make my trip. You have to select some source and destination with a particular date. So let's take a date. Let's say you make your own source and destination and put a date and search flight. Do this thing right now. So let's take these two examples. I have opened one website, yatra.com. There I have put from and to, and then a particular date, and clicking on search. And there is another website, Make My Trip, where I have put um, from and to, and there is a particular date, and I have clicked on search. Now I'm able to see there is a uh, flight at 1640, go first with some, their flight detail, one stop via some other city, right? The same detail I'm able to see here also in another website also. Now the question is how they're getting the similar data, right? In fact, they will get the seat detail also. Somebody will book from this website, and then it will show you zero left, or this row will go on, right? So let's say there are four tickets available now, let's assume, and somebody will book from this website. Let's say one seat is booked, then probably it will show you three seats left, right? Three left, something like that it will show. So how they're getting the real-time data? It's because, let's say, different kind of websites, what the different kind of service providers, right? They are exposing their APIs to be used. So for example, what is happening is, let me note down here, yatra.com, basically what they're doing is connecting to, let's say, Go Air or Indigo, right? There are different service providers, Air Vistara, let's say, there are different things, right? So they are connecting to APIs, right? Different companies' APIs, and in turn, that connects to their own database. So yatra.com themselves, they don't have any database about flight, right? How they can manage it? Because every second things are changing, right? So what they do is they call the APIs provided by different service providers, right? Flight providers. And from there, they get the data, and then they are showing in their own way, right? So for example, here, the user interface may be different, right? It is showing you in a particular font, format, view. So this is view price, whereas it is view fares here. For the same flight, here it is view fares, and here it is view prices, right? So UI part, once they get the data from the backend, right? They get it through API. They are showing in their own way, right? So in this way, API is very important, right? In this way, API is very important. If you have any question about this, you can put it in um, chat window. Okay. Yes. Okay. Going ahead now with our PPT. Okay. So API gets the request from the user and gives the response without exposing internal logic. Correct. But you don't know what is the internal logic, how they are doing it. You don't know, right? You clicked on the search, let's say something is happening here, and you get the data in the user interface. In the API level also, you will be able to just, guess it that what is happening. So basically, how it is working is I'm just guessing. And if you read their manual doc, then you will get it, okay, what is happening. So basically, this is like, what is that website name? Let's say Go First. Okay. So what we are doing is Go First. We are calling, let's say it is HTTPS. Okay. Go First. And then you are putting, let's say, source is equal to some city name, right? City name. And destination is some city name again. Okay. And there are the date and everything you're putting, right? So in the background, this is now. Okay. Something like that. Okay. Going back to this. Now you must have observed sometimes that you get this kind of error, correct? 400 bad requests. So there are, I'll share you the complete list what kind of errors can come when you are checking APIs. Okay, so there is series 100 series, 200 series, 300 series, 400 series, and 500 series. These are just examples. Okay, 400 bad requests. That means you are not putting the request in a good way. Okay. A bad request is server is not able to um, you know process your request because of it is a bad request. Okay. 401 unauthorized. That means, see, are you so do you think that you'll be able to hit this thing, right? Let's say you know this thing that Indigo's or Go Air's API URL is something like this, and you have to provide source and destination in a particular way. Even if you know that, you will not be able to get the data, right? Because you should be one authorized user. Right. So what they provide is some kind of authentication they provide you, maybe some auth key, maybe some token, right? If you have those things, then only you will be able to hit this. It's like this. Okay. So it is unauthorized if you are hitting an API and you are not authorized to do that thing. Forbidden error you get 404 not found. 404 not found is very simple, that you are hitting something which is not available at all. So for example, if I'll in make my trip, see here, make my trip slash flight search itinerary, some date and everything is going right. So if here, if I'll write something, let's say, and um, some random thing I'm writing, right? So, and movie is equals to Terminator. Hit enter, right? So here it is doing something that is fine, but it is maybe ignoring what I'm doing here. They have written some code to ignore the bad request. But can I do something like a website which is not present, let's say? So if I'll say, let's say tttt.com, 4 times t.com, right? I'm just randomly checking. this website may be present or may not present. So let's change it to some random thing. Okay. And I'll open um, the network tab also. In network, I'm hitting this. Now, if you see here, this site can't be reached, it is saying, right? This site can't be reached, it is saying. But in some website, if let's say this ttt.com is present, but I'm writing a slash hi, and if I hit enter, right, there is something I'm calling, right? There is something I'm calling and it is giving me 500 error, right? So this is response code I am getting, okay? It should be 404 not found, right? It is showing me this, but basically it should be 404 not found. If there is nothing, this kind of URL is present, then it will show you 404 not found error. In the same way, there is 409, 500 internal server error. That means you are able to hit something, right? But the server is not able to process it as of now, right? So it is hitting some, I don't know in which language it is. So let's do something else. So let's say if I say Indian rail.gov.in, okay, and slash, this website is legitimate, right? So if I say here, hello, something like this, right? And it is showing, it is correcting on its own, right? But here is the inquiry and then static page something. So if I'll change it to something else, right? Some random thing, and I hit enter, it is showing me not found. And if you see here, it is showing me 404 not found, because this particular, endpoint is not possible. Till this, it's fine. But then it is not able to, check further resources. So this will show you 404 not found. Right? Now we are doing everything on the user interface. The same thing you can do on Postman. The same thing you can do on Postman. So we'll see those examples also through Postman, how we can perform this. So I'll share this PPT, don't worry. But why we should learn API testing? Why we should learn, and why one test engineer should be good on API checks also. Okay. Because the API testing, our main focus will be on a business logic layer. We are testing directly the business logic. So that we can skip a particular, you checking on the user interface. So if I want to check the flight details, right? Why not I will hit the APIs directly? Why to open this yatra.com or something if I have a way to get this detail, right, without opening the UI, right? Why not do in that way? So that I directly check the business logic is working fine or not, right? So in that way, it is more reliable. It is faster to check the APIs. Okay. What are the common tests which you do on the API level, right? We check whether the return value is coming based on the input condition or not, right? We check whether when we are hitting it, we check the authentication, right? We check a lot of things that one API is triggering another APIs or not, right? What are the advantages? So API testing is language independent. API testing is language independent. So when you're doing API testing, um, irrespective of your user interface may be written in different language, your backend may be written in Java, C#, Python, anything. It may be written in different languages. Or the automation, if you are doing, right, it may be written in different language. But when you do API testing, it is language independent. Manually, if you are doing API testing, you don't have to worry about what technology it is used, right? You can hit the APIs directly. Um, API testing help us to reduce the testing cost also, because when you do API testing, right? If you are able to find the bug that we are not able to get the price, right? As of now, we are doing in UI level, but in API level, probably once you will fill the detail about source and destination, and in the response, if you are not getting the price, you can raise the defect then and there without having the UI designed also. Okay. So business logic can be checked without GUI also. But what are the challenges with the API testing? Right. So main challenge is there are different combination of parameters which you have to pass. You have to know proper call sequencing, right? There is no GUI available to test the application, which makes it difficult to give input values. So these things you will feel when we'll do practicals, real practicals. I'll show you these things. Okay. Now, let's start with the Postman. Okay. So let's assume that you want to check in user interface linkedin.com, correct? So you simply, what you do, you just simply say linkedin.com and you put your user ID and password and you get the detail, correct? Or let's say facebook.com, and let me log out from here. I'll do a logout, and we will go to registration page. Basically, I want to go to the registration page. The very first time, okay, you have to click on add account, something like this, or there is a registration page, right? Once you open it very first time, it will show you registration page also, correct? Anyways, so this is the website, and it is showing you some use in user interface. You're able to see that. But the same thing, if I want to do through APIs, what I will do is I'll go to the Postman, and in the Postman, I'll create request. I'll create request. So here is the plus icon, if you see. Okay. So in very first time, probably it will ask you to create a collection, right? If it is asking you, right? So give some name to a collection. Collection is nothing but, you can group your API request. Okay. So as of now, I'm clicking on this plus icon, and here I can put my URL. I'm putting https www.facebook.com, right? And here, if you are able to see, it is showing me that what method you want to do, whether get, post, put, patch, delete. There are a lot of options available. We'll talk about these methods tomorrow. Okay. As of now, we are using get method. So basically, get method is related to getting something from the a particular um, endpoint. It's like this, right? You want to hit a get method, which will get something from the server. It's very simple. It's like you want to get something from the server as a response, right? Post is something when you are posting your own data to the server. Okay. So as of now, when I say get, and I'll put something here, I'm not putting anything else here. So there are a lot of options: params, authorization, header, body. We'll talk about these things later on. and I click on send here. So the same thing which I did on the UI, I'm doing through um, Postman. And I'm able to see here status 200. Okay. It took 348 milliseconds to open, get the response, right? So this is a kind of simple test case where I'm hitting the a particular API and I want to check whether this is working or not. Simple. So 200 OK is the response code which confirms me that, yeah, it's fine. You can hit this URL and response time is this. Right? Size is 68.4 KB. So this is like response. In response, some HTML data is coming. The size of that document is 68.4 KB. Now, this is a very simple example. It is showing me that response is coming in HTML format. There are other formats also like JSON, XML. So response can come in different format also. Okay. Simple one. In the same way, you can hit any API. Now, for our real-time practice, we will use recrest.in. I'm giving you this in chat window. Okay. And I'll hit the same thing in user interface. Don't worry. I'm going here and hit request.in. Okay. So this particular website, they provide you a test, API. You can do something here. Okay. And they provide some documentation also that what are the things you can do. Okay. So let's assume that basically this is about getting number of users, right? And so there is resources. You can get the user. You can create the user, right? So this is, let's assume a simple kind of website. So let me draw something here. What this is doing. Okay. Let me open Paint. Let's assume that there is a website and the website name is employee.com. Employee.com. Okay, some random website. What employee.com has is, or any HR website, you in your company you must be having some employee self-service portal, right, or HR operation related website. So it has its own database which will have details related to employee. Correct. So this is database which will have different table, employee table and everything. Now there must be some form by which you can create the employee, right? So there must be some form. I'm talking about UI part. I'm talking about user interface. In that, you must be having some forms where you can create the employee, you can update the employee detail, you can delete the employee detail, correct? So here you have different operations: create, update, or delete employee. Fine. So this thing can be happened through UI. And once you create it, it will create something in database, correct? When you say create employee, you'll fill a form and that will be stored in database. Fine. The same thing can be done without opening user interface also. So this particular example is related to that. Okay, you can create the employee, you can update the employee. Okay, and you can test whether it is happening or not. So this is quite challenging because you don't have any access to the user interface, right? You have to understand how it is working. Now in real world, how you understand the API? You have to read the requirement document for the API. You have to talk with your developers or the managers to understand about the APIs. Then there will be some kind of documentation available, right? So for example, this is a kind of documentation only, where it is saying that if you want to get the user, right, you can hit the API like this. Okay, so let's do this thing. So if I want to get the user where page number is 2 from the second page, or here is like if you want to get the user which has ID 2, you can get it like this. So I'll show you a real practical example. Okay, so I want to get the user detail in through Postman. So what I will do, I'll create a new request. Okay, and I know this is the um, path, but here I have to extend it with slash API slash users slash 2, and I have to say get me the detail, and I'll say send. Okay. So if I'm doing this, I'm able to get the detail. It is showing me 200. Okay, and I'm able to see the data that ID2 has name, some name, Rose, and year 2001, color, some detail about that user. Okay, you don't have to worry about what it is showing as of now. So let's understand that every API call has a particular kind of response, right? And we have to validate those response, right? And we are not opening user interface, we are checking it. So what has happened as of now? Let's understand. When I hit this through Postman, what is happening in the background is I hit this thing. Now let's think about what are the things has happened in the background. It is hitting the server, hitting the API server of this regress.in website. Okay. And then we are passing some extra things also. So we want to get users, right? So sorry, it is like API user. So we want to get the user detail. There may be other resources also. So this is called resource. We want to get users. There may be other things also. Let's say images, user post, user comments, right? User salary. There may be different things, right? We just want to get user, and that too with some details. So we are passing that. We want to get the user which has ID 2. It's like this. Okay. So what has happened in the background is basically regress.in, they have this thing, right? And then they have their own things. Let's say users is one box, then user related post, user related comments. Let's assume it's a kind of um, social media website, or another way is you can assume that regress has employee data. Okay, so maybe user salary, something like this, right? So now there are different resources, and you want to hide one of the resource. One of the resources user, right? And then they're allowing you to put slash and two. There are different ways. So this is like this path parameter, right? This is called path parameter. This is not query parameter. There is a difference between query parameter and path parameter. We will talk about that thing later on. So I'm hitting request dot um, in API, and I want to get this detail, and I'm able to get the detail like this. Everyone should try this, and you're able to see that this is coming in JSON format. Now the question is, what is JSON? What is JSON? Read about it, Google about it. But JSON is a format where you can store your data, right? And it's a very simple way. It's more of related. It's more of like XML data also, but here you use curly bracket. Okay. So this is showing me that data is ID is equals to 2, name is this, year is this, maybe some year of joining, something like that. Some color it is showing, Pantone value, some other values. Don't worry about what it is, right? But what kind of testing I'll do here once I get this thing? So you have to understand that based on the documentation, right? I was expecting this, that it will come. What value it is coming is a different functional test, but at least I should give first name, last name, and avatar. Some details I should get. Let me click here. Just a minute. Single user. This we are not getting as of now. We are not getting ID and email. I think we are getting name, year, color. So there is some issue. You can raise this defect that as per this documentation, I should get first name and last name and avatar detail, right? But it is showing me year, color, and something. So there is some issue. So you can raise this defect. Okay. It's like this. Let's assume that you're searching a user which is not present in the database. So if I'll say 2003, right, and I'll click on send, right, this user itself not present. So it is showing me 404 not found, and some empty thing here in the JSON. Right? So JSON is JSON files, right? Or JSON data is a way to present something, right? So here, if you see, there is a data colon. Colon means this is property, and this is the value of that property. Then so this is like child object. So this JSON data is starting from the first line, where you start with the curly bracket, ending at 13th line. Let's say here you have data and support as siblings, right? Both are at the same level. Data has its own JSON element again, or JSON object again, which has ID, name, year, color, and then support has URL and text, something. Okay. So as a test engineer, you can validate whether all these things are coming or not, right? Whether you are able to get some detail or not, right? Those things you can check. You can check the response code is coming properly or not when you're passing the valid user ID, right? Those things you can check. There are a lot of other things to check also. As of now, it's I want to keep it very simple, and that's why I gave you this particular examples. Okay.